Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. We're excited to have you here for the Fireside Chat focused on employee engagement and motivation through an IO lens. Today's conversation is designed to be informal and interactive. Hope there's kind of some, we can kind of engage with some of the members that jump on. Rather than a traditional presentation, we'll be having kind of a practitioner-focused discussion on how IO psychology principles show up in real workplaces, what actually works, what doesn't, and how research and theory might be applied in kind of practical and meaningful ways. Over the next, 45-ish minutes, our speakers will share insights and real-world examples related to motivating employees and fostering engagement. If you have questions, please feel free to drop them down in the chat. I'll kind of monitor it as we go. So think about some challenges or experiences that you got from your own organizations, and maybe have kind of questions you'd like answered or discussed. Our goal is for you to walk away with actionable takeaways, fresh perspectives, and ideas you can apply in your own work while also feeling more connected to MAIOP and the IO psychology community at large. With that, let's get started. Portia Barnes is our first panelist who's joining us today. She's currently one of our MAIOP member-at-large board members, helping out with a variety of tasks and projects. We're super glad to have Portia on the board. Portia is the community director at Venn Point Communities and is also somewhat of an accomplished author and kind of a reporter, if you will. Portia, is there anything else, any more you'd like to share about yourself? Portia, I think you might be on mute at the moment.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. So thanks so much, Avery. I am very excited to represent MAIOP and be a part of this great conversation. Like you said, I do a myriad of things. I'm on, the MAIOP board. I also am on one of the committees of BIOP, and I do write for PsyOP's newsletter as well. And I also am the principal consultant for the Workplace Reset Consulting Group. And so I'm just really excited to engage in this conversation with Cheryl and Samantha and everyone who joined us here today.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Portia. Samantha McIntosh is also joining us today as one of our other panelists. Samantha is a digital transformation architect at Bosch and a leadership coach. Samantha also serves as our dutiful board secretary. Very helpful to have Samantha on the MAIOP board. Samantha, we're really glad you're joining us today. Is there anything more that you'd care to share with us?
I've been on the MAIOP board. I think this is my 4th year now. It's hard to remember. And it's been a joy to work with everyone on the board, both this year and the previous years. And I'm excited for the momentum that we're gaining. I'm excited to see how many of you have joined us today. So thank you for being here. I've also been kind of the interim president for the last few months while our amazing president, Michaela's been on maternity leave. So it's been exciting to kind of step into that role as well. But yeah, I'm excited for the conversation. I've tried to pin the group of you. I can't seem to pin myself for some reason. So hopefully everyone is seeing Avery, Cheryl, and Portia's face. And hopefully mine's popping up on occasion as well, but I'll see if I can fix that.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and Samantha, obviously, we're all really glad and grateful that you've been able to serve as the interim president for us for a while. I think it's been a real joy, honestly. So, and then finally, kind of rounding out our panel today is Cheryl Stenmark. Cheryl is a psychology professor at Angelo State University and is the program director for ASU's what is now Organizational Psychology and Human Resources program. I personally am an alumni of ASU back when the program was the Industrial Organizational Psychology program. So really glad to have Cheryl and good to see her after a couple of years away. Cheryl, really glad to have you. Is there anything else about yourself that you'd like to share?
No, thanks. Thanks, Avery. I'm also happy to be here. And it sounds like I've been a professor this is my 16th year. So I definitely think my perspective is going to be more of an academic, theoretical perspective, but I'm happy to be that voice, and hopefully it resonates with the real world as well. So So yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. And yeah, of course, sure. I mean, that was, certainly kind of the hope is that we'd be able to get kind of an academic perspective. Certainly something that we don't always get here at MAIOP, with a lot of us being practitioners. So we really appreciate it. With the introductions out of the way, let's go ahead and kind of just jump into the discussion. And ideally, this kind of flows naturally. Once again, if anybody has any questions, please drop it down in the chat. We'll be able to answer them. But I guess just to kind of kick us off, looking at kind of employee engagement from a practitioner standpoint, what can we as organizations do to stay tuned into employee engagement? And I guess Cheryl, coming from the academic perspective, is there anything that you guys are kind of looking at in academia that we might be able to consider as we look at employee engagement?
Where do you want to start?
I guess just whoever wants to jump in. Whoever's got a thought on it.
Oh, Portia, you're muted again.
We're good, right?
There you go.
Okay, great. I swear I know what I'm doing. Okay, so when I was thinking about this and going over just some of the information I was talking about discussing today, one thing I wanted to bring up was how talent management and engagement go hand in hand, right? And so when we're talking about keeping employees, staff, coworkers engaged, I think it's great to focus on that, but I also think it's good to understand that you can't really do one without the other. And so understanding and identifying how talent management is pretty much like let's just look at it as a house, right? And talent management is the foundation, and then the engagement is what you can build upon. So if you don't have that aspect down and solidified, then it's, for lack of a better term, it's like slapping lipstick on a pig, right? It's not sustainable, so to speak. So I do just maybe that we can start off there, and if anybody wants to add on to that. But understanding that engagement follows the employee experience, and the employee experience is built on talent management. That makes sense to everybody? So I think maybe that's a good place to kind of kick off if anybody wants to tag in.
I would agree there. The talent management is something that, we've come to expect, right? You expect that the company you're working for, especially if it's a larger corporation, has some sort of talent management in place. Mm-hmm. And I think what we have seen, especially over the last few years, is employees are looking for the substance behind it, right? It's great to say that you care about your employees, that you're going to help them, figure out, be in the driver's seat of their career and all of these things. But the reality is we as humans can feel when it's authentic and when it's not. And we've come to realize, especially after I think many of us have been burned one way or another, we've come to realize that anybody can say it. It's what are the initiatives, the platforms, the training opportunities, the resources that are available that are actually driving that impact and helping make the employee experience better.
I agree 1,000%.
Yeah, you said it way better than I was trying to think of real words. Both of you, I always think of it like vibes, like, that the employees can feel it. They can feel the difference. They can feel the vibe. They can feel the intent, the care behind what organizations are doing or say they're doing. And I think that kind of reciprocal care and effort feeds into employee engagement, or employees give back to organizations what they perceive they're getting from the organization.
Mm-hmm. I agree. And I think that a lot of times leaders misinterpret low engagement for one thing when it's really something completely different. I know I've been in rooms where I've actually heard leaders say, "Oh, well, this person is, lazy," because they're not the first person to jump up and ask for extra work, or they're just doing the basis of their job and nothing more. They're not sacrificing any more time and energy. And I have always, and I can call my mother right now, she will attest, I am always the one asking, why? Why is this happening this way? Why? Especially if this was a valued employee at one point, right? And now it's just doing the bare minimum. What has happened? And it's so easy to take accountability off of yourself as a leader and think it's just your staff or the person simply because you offered a pizza party once a year, something like that. It's like, no, let's ask a couple of whys. Let's try to dive into what is happening here. What is the culture like? What are we doing to truly contribute to higher engagement in our organization? And I feel like asking why has to be a consistent tool. Like, it cannot be a once a year annual review question, right? That then may or may not get read. Or at least your staff, your employees feel like it's not being read. Like, why do they even feel like it's not being read? That is the culture. That is the deeper level that we as leaders in workplaces have to dive into to understand how we can positively impact engagement. I think I saw a post here, a message.
Yeah, Lashundra put something in the comments.
Are you reading these, or you want us to?
Yeah, I mean, I can read them out. So, Lashumber just added that it's been her experience with engagement, or that engagement begins with intentional communication and being open to include workers in certain practices so they feel valued and their feedback is recognized. And I think that there's probably a lot of truth to that. Kind of when we feel like an organization is going out of their way to do something, obviously it has a different kind of effect than if it's like a second, like an afterthought process that just kind of happens in the background. I guess, what are your guys' thoughts?
Yeah, and I think this also goes back to what Samantha said about authenticity. So sincere communication, sincere requests for feedback, authentic. We actually do want to hear from you, and we intend to do something about the feedback that we get. It's not just going into a black box that, like Portia said, never gets read.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and Avery, you gave us a couple of framing questions, so I might be jumping ahead a little bit, but one of them was around surveys. And I'm a huge proponent for surveys. We need feedback, right? The problem is that so many organizations, I'm doing a survey. Great. What are you doing with the information you're getting?
You're doing with it. Absolutely.
Because I've been at my company for 13 years. If I consistently year after year give my feedback and nothing changes, why am I going to continue to give my feedback? Why am I going to continue to push myself, give more of myself, when an organization can't even listen to what I have to say? Yeah. Or if they are listening, they're ignoring it. It doesn't matter.
Right.
And
go ahead, Cheryl.
That reminds me of something that Portia said as well, which is, leaders a lot of times are looking at the engagement problem from the wrong lens. And so that means the surveys may not actually be asking the right questions as well. So the survey, in order to be effective, has to be a good survey that's actually asking the questions that are relevant to the employees' engagement experience and, focused on the right side of the employment equation, or at least all sides, so that the employees can give the feedback in the area that is important to them and not just what the leader thinks is the issue.
Yeah, that's such an excellent point. I did an interview a while back for PsyOP, and this was one of the things that we talked about. Do employees trust surveys? Have you created a culture where they feel like their honest opinion is valued enough for them to take the time to give it? And a lot of times, if you've not cultivated that culture, then you make a mandatory survey, well, is it psychologically safe for me to give my honest opinion? Will it be acknowledged? Is there some sort of change or movement improvement that will stem from this? Or am I just checking off the boxes so that I don't get dinged later for not completing the task? And that's what I, referenced back then. And just there are some tangible ways for leadership to show that, no, this is just not another survey that doesn't really mean anything. Do your surveys, yes, because we're all data people. We love it, right? But we want real data. We want truthful data, because otherwise you may as well just not even do it, right? And a way to kind of make sure that is what you're getting is to pair it with pulse check-ins. Like I said, don't just do it once a year. But if you're going to do it, then pair it with a pulse check-in, pair it with a listening session, pair it with one-on-ones, and not just, corporate to managers, but corporate to frontline staff to managers, 360 surveys. It has to be coupled with more than just one thing. And that way you can get a truer overall picture of what is going on in a real employee's experience. And it's also showing the employee hey, this is not a one-off. I do care about what you're saying. I'm asking multiple ways so I can get a clearer picture. And from there, we can create, a good plan, a course correction, or whatever the situation is. I think that would really be beneficial in the lens of an employee to know that, oh no, they really want to know. They really want to know. I worked in customer service for 20 years, essentially. And the de-escalation of an angered customer is not as difficult as people might think. There are people who just want to vent, of course. But if you can just give the impression that I am here, I hear you, I understand what you're saying, it makes sense to me, I want to know more. I might not even be able to give you a solution right now. But if I can just give you the assurance that I care enough to listen, that is just the biggest first step. And I think that's something that just gets so overlooked in upper leadership. And that's a very simple, tangible, do today, incorporate in my organization today thing. That's not something we have to talk about for another year. There are some things you're going to have to obviously take back to the drawing board and restructure. But certain things, we should be able to walk away today saying, you know what, I can start that tomorrow.
Yeah. And when you were talking about how some employees may just be, whatever, checking all threes on the survey just to check the box that they've done it, I started thinking of kind of an existential question that I'm sure we can't, answer today. But if an employee is not engaged, are they even going to put effort into the survey? So if they're not, then we're not getting data from the employees that have engagement
issues,
problems, and we're not finding out how to fix them. But I think your solution of that, everything else that you said would also address that idea that if employees believe that the survey is meaningful and you ask multiple times a year and do all those things that you can do to communicate that you actually want to hear what they say, I think you could reach the disengaged employees who would otherwise just, fill out the survey to check a box.
Mm-hmm. There's something, so my division within my organization rolled something out, I think last year, and my own HR business partner is on the call today, so he's got more firsthand experience and knowledge than I do, but we rolled out something called stay interviews. We're familiar with exit interviews. If we are asking people why they're leaving, it's already too late. I loved when we started introducing stay interviews because we're asking them, why do you stay? What are the things we're doing right? It's not just about everything we're doing wrong. It's about, for us, our company has an amazing 401k match. We know across the board, I used to work in benefits, we know across the board that is one of the highest valued, pieces that we give that keep our employees coming. A couple years ago, we got rid of retiree medical benefits. They set a cutoff, and if you weren't the right age and didn't have the right number of years, you weren't going to get it. And at that point, I had already left the benefits department, and I reached out and I said, I understand, right? I know how much this costs. I know the complexity of managing this. I've done it. But what incentive are you giving me to stay with your company now? If it doesn't matter if I retire from here or from there, no one's going to give me retiree benefits. What are you doing to keep me? Now, my company in particular has rolled out more benefits that I can use today as opposed to 30 years from now when I retire. Those are the things that keep me. So looking at that total compensation package, not just the salary we're giving someone, the benefits offerings. And I'm not just talking about your medical plan. I'm talking about the lifestyle spending account that I get every year that I can spend on a standing desk for my home office, or I can spend it on a membership to Audible, whatever it makes the most sense for me to spend that money, which gives me more choice and shows that my company cares about my well-being and wants to give me the opportunity to take care of myself the way I know how to take care of myself. Justin put in the chat, because he's my HR business partner, that one of the things he loves about the stay interviews is the chance to answer those questions or connect to those resources and benefit the employees might not know is out there. And I think that's great, right? I know from firsthand experience, companies have benefits that not everybody is aware of exist or how to access. And those kind of conversations allow us to inform people with the information that they're looking for.
Absolutely. Justin put in the chat. I'm sorry, not Justin, I apologize. Ezekiel. He said that he recently experienced this at a company he resigned from and found that their employee engagement survey or their post check was quantitative versus qualitative. And he informed the organization that they were missing organic information, but they were not trying to hear it. Yeah.
Qualitative is daunting, right? Who wants to sit and read all of those open-ended questions?
No. No.
Right? AI makes it so much easier, but I get it. I get why we stray away from it, but that's where the value is. Because if somebody's taking the time to write you a message about how they feel, you should be taking the time to read it and listen to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love stay interviews. If I could talk about it every day, I would. I think it's so undervalued and underutilized in organizations. And I don't even know how it has become this foreign concept. It's like, when you think about it, it's like, duh, like, why would you not want to know why people are staying here every year? And Dr. Kim said, and this is so true for myself, I am not a person that is motivated by money, and except my husband. outside of him, I am not motivated by money, and that's only because I need him to take me on vacations. But professionally, that is not going to get me to stay. That's not going to keep me there. If I am mentally drained when I come home every day, if I don't have capacity to care for my kids and my husband because my fuse is short because I've used it all day at work, that is not a good space for me. And there's not any amount of money that's going to say, oh, it's worth it. You know, and one thing I will say is that engagement 10 years ago, 15 years ago versus today, and what people are going to tolerate in organizations is very different. We can talk about the generations and whatnot. And I will say, you know, those who are a little bit younger than me have a very clear boundary on what they're willing to tolerate engagement-wise and anything else regarding an employee experience. And we can say a lot of things. We can dive into that, of course. But I am looking at it as like, let me learn how to do that. Because when I was growing up, you know, in administration and being one of 2 Black people in the workplace at any given time in leadership, I was always taught, you know, go above and beyond, extend yourself, do it for the company. And, you know, you have to work twice as hard, you know, and all of these things. And so that is being honest. Of course, that's not good work-life balance. We all know that. But that did create a very rigid work ethic for me that I have benefited from, but I have also suffered from. And I have been in positions where I have extended everything and I'm not receiving enough out of the workplace for the amount that I am giving. And I do believe very much so now at this stage in my career of work-life balance. But had I had people considered stay interviews, had people you know, invested in what engagement looks like within the culture, maybe I would have shifted a lot earlier than I am now. But I am taking these lessons that I'm seeing from younger people in these workplaces that are saying, absolutely not. It is not happening. I am not doing it. I will quit. And there's time and place for everything, right? There's a way to do all things. But I have to be honest and say I'm inspired. I really am. I think that it's important for us to really start being vocal and creating boundaries here so that the culture can begin to change in organizations. And a lot of that is everybody's got a role to play. We'll just put it like that. Everybody's got a role to play. And I don't know if anybody else want to talk about how engagement was 10 years ago versus today, or 20 years ago versus today, what that looks like in the workplace. But that's just one thing I've definitely noticed.
Yeah, I would actually be really curious. I mean, I guess for myself, 5 to 10 years ago, I wasn't necessarily in the workplace, right? I was in a high school classroom, but and I think probably kind of from like a selfish perspective, I am very curious, like, and I think Jennifer kind of hit on it. You know, we see a lot more of a lean towards people kind of prioritizing, you know, kind of mental health at work and more like intrinsically valued kind of like engagement factors. What, I guess, is there a difference? And kind of like, what is the, like, I guess, what were the kind of like different engagement factors at least being pushed at organizations? Yeah, I guess like 5, 10, 15 years ago. I mean, has there been a huge change since COVID? Or, I mean, what did that landscape look like before?
So I have 2 examples, and they're both very different. So the first one is around, and Portia talked on this a little bit towards the beginning of our conversation, so around performance reviews, annual performance reviews. A few years ago, I had the opportunity to be part of the change management rollout of a new performance management system. It was the first time that Bosch had changed their performance management tool in 30 years. The form that I was filling out every year was almost as old as I was. You can imagine how outdated that is. And what we changed to, the reason I actually wanted to support the project, because it was actually something I did on the side, was because I believed so strongly in what it was doing. We shifted it to a conversation dialogue. That's what we call it. It's a conversation dialogue. It is about you and your manager sitting down and saying what motivates you, where do you want to go, what do you want to learn, and what's getting in your way. It's not about whether or not you met that goal or that KPI or whatever, which those are important. But at the end of the day, all I can do is show up and do my job. I don't have control over the outcome because I'm only one cog in the wheel. But when I know that my manager actually cares about what I want for my career path and not only wants to listen, but then help me get there, that's when I know I'm valued. That's what makes me want to be engaged. The other one is around employee well-being programs, which I think ties into the COVID conversation. And this is where I get really passionate, so I will try to keep it short. In 2020, my company was changing its employee well-being program. And I just happened at the time, I found myself in benefits, a career I never expected to be in. And now looking back, I know exactly why I was there, because it was this opportunity to roll out a whole person holistic approach to well-being. For years, our company's well-being program was go to the doctor, get your blood work taken, or show up on this day when we've got these nurses sitting in our conference room who are going to prick your finger, get your numbers, and we'll give you $200. Sure, I'll go get my finger pricked for $200. But what are we doing with that information? And how is getting my finger pricked and giving you my metrics actually helping me? And so I had the opportunity, and the timing couldn't have been better or worse. We launched March 1st of 2020 with this new platform. And then the world changed. But it was something that was so incredibly needed at that exact moment. A new platform that came out and said, we don't care. I mean, yes, we care about your health. We care that your cholesterol is good. We care about your triglycerides, all of that. The reality is that those numbers lower healthcare premiums. What this platform did, it says, we want you to be educated. We want you to have practical applications and exercises. We're going to reward you for it. You're going to earn points, and then you get to spend the money how you want. And in my opinion, that shift was part of the shift that came with COVID. It's no longer just about your physical health, because the reality is that our physical health in most cases sucks, but so does our emotional and our financial well-being. And those two are directly impacting our physical. So like I said, I can get really passionate about it, but when we talk about showing our employees we care, it's introducing new tools and resources that show them we actually care about who they are as people and care about how they are, not just at work, but outside of it.
Cheryl, I'm curious, kind of from an academic standpoint, I guess, has the conversation around what employee engagement, systems and programs might look like or should look like, has that changed over the past, I guess 10 years, or has this kind of been steady the whole time?
I think with this in particular, I haven't seen changes necessarily in the textbooks or anything, but just reading the news and being a person with a job. I agree with what everyone has said so far, and also particularly what Kim said. I do think everybody's take on engagement has changed, particularly post-COVID. That I would say 10, 20 years ago, I think probably no, it wasn't a high priority for employees or for organizations, like our emotional psychological engagement, but like Kim said, it's more like a focus on doing your job, complying, following the rules, doing what you're supposed to do. And then I think after COVID, employees were, I think, maybe the first to realize, hey, we should expect more from our organizations. And then organizations were kind of like, okay, I guess we need to catch up, and pay attention to how our employees are feeling, not just if they're doing their job, but also their job satisfaction and motivation and stuff like that. So I do think post-COVID engagement is more of a priority both for employees and organizations. And to Portia's point, I think employees realized they had some power and they could leave jobs that were not fulfilling, psychologically, emotionally, and engaging. And so organizations realized they needed to meet employees where they were and address those engagement needs.
Yeah, I mean, I know, like, especially it's like here at the school district, certainly in conversations with employees, phone calls, meetings in offices, whatever, as well as kind of looking at some of our, like, for us, exit surveys, but looking at the kind of employee data that we have, I think like the overarching trend is that like our employees almost like feel engaged in spite of like the organization or leadership of the district, rather than like because of the leadership of the district. A lot of times it's obviously just like kind of commitment to the community that they serve, or their their coworkers, and kind of like feeling like a team in that sense. But then we got a lot of complaints or concerns about like a feeling that district leadership doesn't necessarily have their backs, or district leadership doesn't necessarily have kind of their best interests in mind. I guess kind of like looking at it from a top-down perspective, I mean, certainly positive that in recent years it's kind of been pressure coming up from the bottom, but like what kind of changes could organizations make, kind of from a leadership perspective, or what kind of like behaviors could a organization take from a leadership perspective to kind of like help encourage engagement? I guess, what are your guys' thoughts?
Avery's a great question. So I have been in middle and upper management for I don't want to say because I look young, but it's been a while, and that's actually why I started my journey into IL psychology, because I was frustrated, utterly frustrated with losing quality staff due to disengagement, and there was only so much I could do at a mid-level, and I could scream and shout at the top of my lungs to ownership. So my background prior to IO psychology was real estate and property management. So managed properties, dealt with owners, realtors, all the good jazz. And I could scream to the top of my lungs about, hey, there are certain fundamental things that are lacking in how you're engaging with your staff, vendors. And I felt as though I wasn't really being heard because I didn't have anything to back it up. It was just the experience. It was just the on-site experience. It was just the conversations. I now know that those are actually more powerful data than anything else, because this is what is actually going on in your organization. I can infer from scientific data from other people's experiences, but this is truly the most important that you need to discuss. But my frustration was, okay, well, maybe I don't have the right language. Maybe I need to speak differently. And how do I do that? And so that literally started my journey on, I need to go back to school. Maybe I need another degree, this, that, and the third. And then I fell in love with IO psychology, and here I am today. So for people who are mid-managers and deal with that same frustration, okay, there is only so much that can be done at mid-management level, but do it. So start there, but do it, okay? Because you know more than a lot of times ownership, that quality employee. You know, you see it, you're working with them, or they're reporting to you, or whatever the situation is. And I know, and I've had several staff members, several employees of mine come back to me and say, I stayed because of you. I stayed because of the energy, the acknowledgement, the conversations, the energy that you've put into creating the culture at this level. Now, there are certain things that were out of my control, and then that ultimately is why they left. And now I am able to at least get into rooms where I believe that I can be heard more, because now I know how to speak the jargon that is needed to get them to say, hey, you need to invest in employee engagement. Hey, retention is a big issue here. Hey, but and I'm a lover of education. So I'm always going to be like, go back to school if you can, learn different things if you can. But if you can't, that would be the very first thing I would say. Don't stop. Okay, keep investing in your staff, keep investing in ways that they are benefiting from. Keep saying the small things. Hey guys, I just want to say thank you today. Nothing major. You didn't check off anything crazy. I'm just glad you showed up. You'd be so surprised how that is the thing that they remember. That is the thing that's like, man, I should call off today. But you know what? I don't want to leave Portia hanging. She's the only one in the office. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, you have to build that camaraderie. You have to invest in your people. That's something, again, you can start tomorrow. If you're not doing it today, do it tomorrow as a middle management type person. Or anyone, honestly. But you know what I mean? That's just my personal experience. That is what led me down this road, being kind of stuck at this level. And not gaining any traction with the powers that be above me. Samantha, Cheryl, do you guys have any thoughts?
I can relate to what Avery said, because I am in education, and I see Jennifer in the chat has also talked about stuff. And education is kind of a unique field, I think, where a lot of the decisions are made at levels, with people who are like Portia said, the middle management are the ones who know what's going on right here at your organization or at our campus. But our decisions are being made by people who are not in education, are not trained in education, they've toured campuses, but they've never been a teacher. And I love what Avery said about being engaged in spite of all of the crap that educators have to deal with. But and unfortunately, these decisions are being made way above anybody that I deal with on a day-to-day basis, way above their pay grade. But I really like what Portia said, that even though our department chairs or principals are not making the decisions, if they act like they care about us, they act like they care how these decisions are affecting us, and just provide information, like, this isn't my decision, but we have to do this because, and offer some reasons and what the policy is. So just providing information communicates that they respect you and your right to know why we're doing what we're doing, even if they can even acknowledge, okay, this doesn't totally make sense. I know this, but we have to do it because, somebody voted some way in our state. I think that is how you can be happy, engaged, satisfied, in spite of a lot of the negative stuff that we have to deal with. When we have those leaders that we feel like are on our side and looking out for our best interests, in spite of some of the stuff that they have no control over.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Dr. Kim said transparency is huge. And yeah, I felt that with my whole heart. Yes, it absolutely is. Sorry, Sam, go ahead.
No, you're good. There's a couple different thoughts that I've had come up as you guys have both talked. And I think the one that is standing out the most for me is a topic that unfortunately is really controversial right now, and it really shouldn't be. And that's the topic of DEI. I know Kim in here is really heavy into the DEI work, so I know she sees it. And not to bring it from a controversial lens, but more of a values lens. If you say that something like DEI is a value of yours, but then when a law gets passed or direction comes down from above or whatever it is, and suddenly it's out the window, it was never a value. And I'm not just talking about DEI. I work for a German-based company. DEI is huge. And I'm using the DEI example because it's the one that comes to mind. DEI is huge. I started my career there 13 years ago in the DEI space. We didn't just get rid of DEI because we were told it's not allowed anymore. We changed. The monthly book club that women at Bosch put on changed the way that they present themselves. Now it's read like a Bosch. We're using our slogans. We're picking books that are relevant to the work that we do and things like that. We're finding ways to still show people that we care about diversity and difference of opinion while circumventing these rules that go against our values. And so I think the biggest thing, especially from a leadership perspective, is don't give up, do what you can. Because at the end of the day, if you are in a middle management or wherever you're at in that ladder, you're the voice for the people below you. And hopefully you have somebody who hears you and is the voice for you. But at the end of the day, we all know it. People stay for managers, not companies. I have been, at, like I said, at my company for 13 years. I have been in a variety of roles. I have had good managers and I have had bad ones. The reason I'm still at my company today is because of my manager currently. If she hadn't gotten a hold of me, I was on my way out because I was tired of working my ass off and not being valued. So never underestimate the impact you can have as an individual who really cares about the people that they're leading.
That was amazing, Sam. Thank you.
Okay.
Ditto.
I get passionate about the topic, right? And I think that we all do. It's why I think this topic is one of the things that brought many of us to IO, is we care about people. And we want work we spend so much time at work. We want it to be a good place. We want it to benefit us, not leave us tired and exhausted. We want to be able to bring and I love when we changed our well-being program. One of the things was we want you to bring your best self to work, but also be able to take your best self home. We don't want you depleted at the end of the workday. We know you've got families or obligations you're going home to. As a working mom, knowing that my leadership supports when my kid's got a snow day and I've got to work from home, I work from home completely, but my 7-year-old might interrupt a conversation and it's okay. I was in several years ago, this is a funny story. I was in a meeting with my VP at the time and the VP of corporate research, and I was giving a presentation. I gave them a heads up. My son was home, schools were closed, and it was on video. And all of a sudden, my, at the time, like 4 or 5-year-old comes in completely naked. Thankfully, not within camera view. Comes in, holding his clothes, completely naked, throws them in the air and goes, ta-da! And I'm like, oh my God. I am on the phone with 2 executive leaders. Yeah. And I was able to say, I'm so sorry. My son, I told you my son's home. I need to take care of something really quick. I will be right back. Just that understanding alone made me feel more comfortable and cared for. Because you never know what's going to happen.
Ziad dropped an interesting question in the chat. Ziad said, it would be fun to hear the tools and strategies people are using to measure and improve engagement. He wants to hear kind of what works, and then what maybe didn't work in the long run. I guess, do you guys actually think maybe like what didn't work is almost a better example sometimes than what worked? I guess, do you guys have any examples of like, kind of like an engagement like measurement, or like a motivation measurement you guys used that like just totally flopped, or maybe one that you've taken that just like was a total dud?
Oh, a total dud. Well, I'm going to think about the dud for a second. I do truly believe in stay interviews. That is a tool that I use. That's a tool that I tell others when I'm consulting. I believe it has tremendous value, and that's not a standalone. That's in addition to whatever other engagement measurement tools you have. Thanks, Dr. Kim. We'll see you soon. I believe there's such great data for that. And then the unofficial meetings, I find, build so much camaraderie, and you will learn a lot more when a staff member employee does not feel pressure in an official setting. Take them to dinner, do a happy hour. You could do a happy hour at the office, give them 4 o'clock off, and, bring in Chinese food or something. I don't know, get to know who your staff is so you know what type of food to bring them. And build that camaraderie up, I just think that's so important, and you'll get so much more authentic data that way to then take back to upper management and and then advocate not only for yourself, but for your staff. If you see a meeting, okay, disclaimer, I am not one to shy away. So if that is your personality, let me start with that, then raise your hand and say, can I join this meeting? I know I wasn't initially a part of it, but I think that this would be beneficial for me, and I might have some input that I could share that might help. If you see the meetings on the calendar, create, all you can do is ask.
Mhm.
All you can do is ask.
Yeah.
Right?
Because otherwise, how are they going to know you're interested?
Exactly.
And I think to blend onto that, Portia, around things you can do, because I think we know surveys don't work unless you're actually doing them in the way that we as IOs are taught, right? There are good ways and bad ways. But every company tracks their attrition data, that rollover. In many cases, you can get it down to the team. Which teams have had people staying for 10, 15, 20 years? My team, I have people who have been in this role for 25 years, their entire career at our company. Why are they staying? Because when Portia talked about getting the data from your organization, what works there, that leader, that team is doing something right because those people are staying. So what are they doing that's different than the team that has that 10% attrition rate, which is atrocious? But take a look at who's doing it right and who's doing it wrong. Figure out where the differences are.
A quick piggyback to that sound, because I can already hear ownership becoming defensive and saying, well, why do you need that data? So I would, and it would be truthful, and the data would be because I want to find out what is being done correctly. Right? So I'm looking for, like you said, I'm not looking to see why your turnover is high. I'm looking to see the departments that have extremely low turnover, so I can make sure and compare to what I'm doing and see if there's something I can learn from that. And I think that would be much easier appeal to swallow as someone who is, who has that data. And a lot of times that is a corporate level person that has that data. So if that is something you're interested in, just think about it like that, because framing is everything. And you don't want them to think that you're looking for an angle of something, but that's an excellent point, Sam. I couldn't think of any duds. I'm sorry. I was still thinking.
No, you're good. I mean, hopefully the
I think-
duds are, long in the past and they're few and far between. So, I mean, to be fair, we're always looking for what works. Well, thank you guys. I really appreciate, everybody who joined and jumped on with us for the conversation today. Another huge shout out to Cheryl, Portia, and Samantha. I really appreciate our kind of panelists for jumping on and really kind of leading the discussion and, providing with us a lot of kind of insightful comments and thoughts. So certainly a lot to think about for myself. And we're actually looking at kind of our exit survey and survey system. So maybe some thoughts for myself to take back as I head back to the district. So appreciate it, guys. This was recorded, so you obviously kind of jump back to this in the future if you need. And we look forward to seeing some of you certainly in the future for our virtual events, but then also ideally for some of our in-person events as well.
Which there
Thank
will be
you all.
one
Have a
in
good one.
February, right? Avery, we're having one in
Yes, yeah,
February
there'll be one.
in person.
Mhm.
West Side Estate in February. We want to see you. More information's coming.
Yeah.
Got a plug for the next
Of
one.
course.
Always.
Thank you, Avery, for such a great conversation.
Thank you.
Cheryl, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to contribute your thoughts, especially from an educational standpoint. And great topic, Avery.
Yeah, great topic.
Thank you. Thanks, Samantha.
Let's do it
Thanks,
again,
guys. Yeah, of course.
Bye.
Bye.
Have a good one.